If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as follow me and subscribe to me on all my other social media platforms. What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with another album review for you guys. And today I am talking about the latest studio offering and the first album in 5 years from Pennsylvania/South Carolina death metalers Horrendous with Ontological Mysterium. So this comes out on August 18th on Season of Mist Records, and holy crap, like I said, it's been 5 years since their last one that came out in 2018 called Idol, which I really liked that album. I think it was on my year-end list for the Horseman podcast for 2018. It was a damn good album. And like I said, their first one in 5 years, so when I saw Horrendous was finally releasing something, I was going to be reviewing it no matter what, because this band has had quite the trajectory, starting off more as a old-school death metal band, kind of like a hybrid of early Death and like early Entombed, somewhat kind of in that vein. But over the course of each and every album, they've been getting increasingly more melodic and more progressive. Like, I thought their last album, Idol, was really like a nice meeting of the minds of death metal and prog. This album, I say, takes that and it's times 10 when it comes to the prog, because holy crap, for under 38 minutes, these guys are able to cram in so many ideas, but it doesn't feel like they were scatter shooting all these ideas. Like, it flows very nicely. We start off with The Blaze, which is only 2 minutes, and it's largely kind of like this Death Doom opening. It's very eerie atmosphere with a pronounced bass tone. I will say the bass work on this album, it's gonna be incredible whenever you listen to it. Like, Alex, the bass player who joined on the band for Idol, he's an exceptional bassist, and I'm thinking he plays with a pick or he's playing with fingers. Either or, it doesn't matter. Holy shit, he is flying on this album when it comes down to the bass work. I'm just gonna go ahead and get that out of the way, because the bass work on this album might be some of the best bass work I have heard on an album for a couple of months. But yeah, The Blaze, kind of more or less doomy, and then you get another trademark of this album, and that's harmonized guitar solos. Like, a lot of these songs have, whenever it gets into the guitar solos, they'll harmonize them with the two guitarists, Matt and Damien, who are also the vocalists. They are exceptional guitarists. Like, the riff work on this whole album is just wild and unwieldy, but catchy at the same time. Kind of similar to one Chuck Schuldiner from Death. After all, Death, one of the big inspirations to Horrendous. But yeah, The Blaze, kind of an interesting way to start, and then we get to, and I'm probably going to butcher this, Chrysopoeia. Chrysopoeia, I think I got it right. The Archaeology of Dawn. The longest track of the album, and it already comes in on track 2. It's nearly 7.5 minutes, and it has so much going for it. Starts off rather energetic with like an opening like galloping thrash riff and thrash beats. It almost kind of had a bit of a blackened thrash feel to it. I was thinking, am I listening to Hell Ripper right now? Because it kind of had a little bit of that kind of vibe to it. But then the melodies that start coming in, and really the melodies on this album kind of go into all sorts of directions. Whether it be soaring, somber, emotional. There are some emotional melodies on this track in particular, but then you get probably one of the only few times where you get like any kind of tremolo riffs or any tremolo melodies. They come up on here and they kind of feel almost power metal-ish. And then, of course, the bass lines that come in here and there on not just the track but the album made me think of Cynic to some degree. This is also one of only a couple of tracks where you get clean vocals, and it was unexpected because I don't recall any clean vocals on Idol, but when the clean vocals do show up, man, they are exceptional, whether it's more the mid to high range or the low kind of gothic cleans whenever they do pop up. But then we get to Neon Leviathan, where it kind of gets a little bit off the rails, but in a good way. It's with this more like this galloping D-beat stomp with killer bass work and chaotic riffing, and it's super technical. And the drum work, dare I say, Jamie, the drummer, channeling his inner Sean Reinert a little bit. And it does kind of turn into more of a cynic or a death song towards the second half of the track before you get like this ripping hard rock lead. Okay. Aurora Neoterica? Neoterica. I think I got it right that time. This was actually the shortest track of the album at just a smidgen under 2 minutes, and it was an instrumental, but it was kind of more like a jazzy Dream Theater instrumental, and this is where some Dream Theater comparisons are going to start coming in, because then it follows into Preterition Hymn. I got it right the first time. Preterition Hymn, which may be one of my favorites of the album, because this track has some of the most somber melodies you're going to hear on this album. Starts off that way with like somber atmosphere, and then the guitars get very somber with the melodies. And the song as a whole kind of has a little bit more of a doom-laden vibe to it, because it's pretty bleak. But it feels like a mixture of Dream Theater with the cleans, death, and Opeth, because then you get this wonderful acoustic ending that made me think of Opeth. Beautiful harmonies on the guitars and the leads on this track. Just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Then we get to Cult of Shadowa, or Shadowa. Heavy riff and low growls starting off, again bringing back more of that Opeth vibe, and even in the groove. Like, this would be one of the first songs where there's a pronounced groove going on. Tasty licks and leads, and then it turns thrashy and wild, kind of like early Death, before a nice breakdown comes in. Exogenesis. This song is a little bit kind of strange as well, because it's most of the riffs kind of feel a little bit like Judas Priest, but the drums kind of go all sorts of directions, whether it's through cymbal play, kind of almost like a techno beat, but then the guitars are doing more to provide atmosphere for the most part, while the bass is pretty much like the centerpiece of the entire song. Again, more great harmonies, dark spoken word parts, and then you get some chaotic tremolos and jazzy drums towards the end. Then we get to the title track, Ontological Mysterium. It's this and the final track, The Death Now Ringeth, feels very much like the most death metal oriented songs of the entire album. With the title track, it does start off with some, again, more classic metal like Judas Priest riffs, but it has a bit of a death metal twist. But then you get some nice death metal triplet chugs with odd times that kind of feel like Leprosy a little bit. But then you get like a nice little like swinging triplet chug, but with an eerie tremolo harmony. And then The Death Now Ringeth starts off a little bit more on the doom side with the death bells and guitar dive bombs. The drums and the guitars feel a little doomy in terms of but building tension. And then you get some chugging riffs, and then two cool chugging parts that really stand out. You get a badass death metal triplet chug that made me think of the old school Florida scene, and there's even a little hint of dissonance. Like, there's not a whole lot of dissonance on this album. This is really the one song where you get any kind of dissonance. But then the other chug, it's more of a doom chug with the breakdown, but awesome drum solo in the track too, before a big scream with this awesome Opeth riff and groove coming in. And then you get on and off leads with occasional harmonies, and just, again, the guitar work of this album is just flying when it comes down to either wildly different riffs or these wonderfully crafted solos and harmonies that really make this album stand out in terms of prog metal, or even just progressive death metal, or death metal in general, to be honest. Like I said, bass work, absolutely exceptional. Drum work is just all over the map. The guitar work, whether it's in the riff department or in the solo department, executed masterfully well. And then the production. The production definitely has an old school sound to it, but the mix is well balanced. Like, again, the bass, it's super prominent. You can hear it with the guitars, and it doesn't overpower the guitars. The guitars are very much pronounced. The drum tones are really cool. The vocals feel like, again, and I may have said this whenever I spoke about Idol on my Album of the Year list for the Horseman podcast, the vocals feel like a hybrid of Chuck and Tampa from At the Gates. Like, it feels like the love child of both of those vocalists wrapped into one. But as far as any complaints, I'm very hard-pressed to find anything worth complaining about on this album. Like, I was just kind of going like, holy shit, they're out in my head while I was listening to this, because every single song is completely different. Like, of course, like I said, the opening track feels a little bit more of like a Death Doom track. Then track 2, very much like starting off black and thrash, and then it gets into prog death metal. Then Neon Leviathan feels very much like a tech death song, but with some D beats. Then you get like a jazzy Dream Theater instrumental, and then you get this like wonderfully beautiful mellow death prog track. And then you get like an Opeth song, and then it turns into like classic heavy metal with death metal moments. And then the final 2 songs feeling the most death metal of them all. So overall, this is another 10 out of 10. Holy shit, I was blown away. I would say this might be the best Horrendous album I've heard so far, and I've only listened to 2 albums up to this point. Idol and this. I'd say this one blows Idol out of the water, because holy crap, the different twists and turns that are happening on this album is just... how did they pull this off? It's remarkable. Hats off to you, Horrendous. But of course, this is all just my opinion. What did you guys think of Ontological Mysterium by Horrendous? Let me know in the comments below, and until next time, keep your horns high and your dreams wet.